Welcome everyone. Today we are going to be talking about file and user permission management. First of all, at the end of the class, we would be creating files, create users, and also create groups. At the end of the day, we would try to modify them, try to modify the groups, add password to the users, and manage how these users and groups access files. In the, when I talk about access files, I'm referring to permissions, how much on or how far it can go with a particular file. So we are going to manage those file permissions that will be creating, and then we will also do more fine-grained permissions by creating and managing access control lists, which are ACLs. So I want to believe that at the end of the day, we will have a solid understanding on file and user permission management, and we should be able to complete our take-home task for the week. First, it's important to know what we mean by file permissions. So Linux files and directories are assigned three types of permissions. Okay, and when I mean three types of permissions, we are referring to the owner permission, referring to the group permission, and the others permission. Others means everyone else. Okay, so the owner, it is the user of which we're going to see how to create a user. The user who created or who has been assigned ownership of the file. Okay, you may create the file, but you may not be assigned ownership of the file. The ownership can be taken away from you. Okay, so um, group are when I say group is a collection of users. Okay, imagine yourself in an office. You are not the only one within the office or within the department. For example, a DevOps department. We have um, 10 DevOps engineers within our department. So we need to create a file that every person within our DevOps engineering department can access that particular file. So we would make it we'll add that file into the DevOps engineer group. So that's what the group is for. The group assigned to the file, and the owner, the user who owns the file, and others, any other person who is not in the DevOps engineering department. They could come from the marketing department, from the admin department, and wherever they can come from. Okay, so they can access that file. All right, so when there's some symbolic coding that you're going to see when we run this command, ls-l. So when we run ls-l, you already know what ls means. When you run ls, you list the files within a directory. So when you do ls-l, you are opening up the permission you're opening up the file in a list format, and it gives you a long list of what the file entails and all the data and information within the file. So there you get to see the permissions that are within the file. All right. So when you do that, you're going to see three symbolic permissions where we have R for read, W for write, we see X for execute. Okay, so what this means is when you see R, it shows that the person or the user or the group or any other person, which is this, can be able to view the file content or list directory, which means they can do the ls command to list a directory. Okay, so they can view the file, they can run ls command to actually view the file. So for write permission, they can modify every contents of the file. They can do cat, they can do echo, they can just modify the content of the file. All right. So for execute, which is X, they can whoever is the person who is accessing the file, maybe owner, group, order, and they have an X permission, which is execute permission. You can run the file or enter a directory. So they can run the file. For example, running the file means they can run, like for example, a shell script, and they can enter a directory using the cd command. Okay, so we are going to see a bit more example before we move forward. All right, so when we run the ls command, this is a typical example of what we are going to see. We are going to see different alphabetic codings, and we already explained to you what rwx means within the context of our class. And I said when you have your D, when you have your R, it means read. When you have W, it means write. When you have X, it means you can execute. So the first three alphabets before. Um, okay, so when you run your ls command, the first one is the file type. So the file type can be a directory, it can be a file. Okay, so when you see D, it's telling you that this file you're opening is a directory. But when you see a dash on this side of the file type, on the first alphabet, like it's empty, just a single dash, it's telling you it is a file. Then now from that onward, you start counting your users. So 1 2 3 user, 1 2 3 group, 1 2 1 2 3 others. Okay, so the first one, 1 2 and 3 is our user. So our user has read, write, execute permission. That is a complete permission. The group also have read, write, execute permission. So and others, which is everyone else, has a read, write, execute permission. So this is like a full permission. We don't usually give this because you're actually giving somebody a full, yeah, opening up the file, um, you're exposing the file to whomever have access to the file, and it's not a secure way. So we are going to change some parts of these file permissions and see how best we can secure our file. So this is what I mean when I say could be a file, a directory in the first alphabet or the first item you see when you do your ls-l command. You can see here, this is the dash. So when it's a dash, it's a file directory that we are, that it means it's a file. Okay, but when it's a D, like what we saw here, it means it's a directory. Okay, so this is an example of a symbolic coding for permissions, or a symbolic mode for permission. All right, so we are also going to see a different kind of permissions, and this is it. This is more like the numeric one. So every um, of our alphabet have numbers. R is 4, W for write is 2, X is 1. So each is 7. Altogether it's 7. So for group it's 17, 7. For others, every 17 also 7. So if you are to type up this command in a way to use number as a color as your numeric mode to give the file permission. So you say 777, or if you want to use symbolic mode to give a permission to a file, you can then use the RWX. You see a particular explanation of what I'm talking about when we run this command. So this is also a good example for you to see before we move forward. Here you can see the symbolic mode, the RWX, read, write, execute. For group, you can see group has read permissions or does not have write permissions, but also have an executable permission. So when for others, which is everyone, they have read permission, they do not have a W, which means they do not have a write permission, or they cannot execute the file. So how do you calculate this? You can see read is 4, write is 2, and X is 1. to give you 7, right? So here, our R here, our read is 4, our W is 2, our X is 1. So that is 7, 7. We have 7. Then what here you can see some ones and zeros. So what is this is telling you is R is on, W is on, X is on, R here is on. This is 0. There's nothing here. Just for you to have a different graphical understanding of what's happening around here. So you can see where there is no permission is giving you a 0, which means no permission currently on this part. All right. So when I calculate my numeric mode, I would say R is 4. So 4, W is 2, 4 plus 2 is 6. Then X is 1. So 4 plus 2 plus 1 will give me 7. So when I go to my group permissions, I see here R is 4. So that is 4. I have group, sorry, right is 2. I did not have right, so 0. So X is 1. So 4 plus 1 will give me 5. So I have my 5 here. Same thing applies around here. So this just gives you a way to calculate the permissions you want to give to a particular file. We'll see it's actually very easy. It may look a bit daunting at the moment, but it's actually very easy. When we start the actual practical aspect of it, during the lab, you would have a full understanding. So just to make some correction about here, so you can see R1, W1, X1, R, another R for group 1. Here, there's nothing here, it's 0. So this is just an octal representation. You know what octal is here. Octagon or octadecimal places and stuff like that, for those who did math. But this is not nothing to worry about. Just concentrate more on your symbolic and numeric mode. Um, this gives you a full understanding of what octal numbers actually are. But these are not really um, important, because for those of us who are starting new, it could confuse us. So let's um, put our attention on just this. Okay, so just to know that all you have to know is R is 4, W is 2, and X is 1. So when you combine them together, depending on the number of permissions that you have, it could be 7, it could be different number, it could be 5, it could be 5. It does just know, okay? Just know which comes first. R comes first, W second, and X. So RWX, which is 421. Just put this number, memorize the 421 to give you a very good understanding on how to actually give permissions to file and users. The next thing we're going to do is to start up our lab, and what I'm going to do is to um, open up my machine. So here I have just the remote server running because I took out the local server, so don't not bother yourself about this. This is just to save some space on my machine. Okay, my VM is running at the moment. For those of us who are not aware, I'm running Ubuntu virtual machine on VirtualBox. Okay, it's still powering up. We just wait for that to finish. Right here, I have my machine running. What I'm going to do next is to run the ls command, ls. So what this means is, Of course, like we explained earlier, here is going to be your users. Here is going to be your um, your group. Okay, your users and your group. Okay, so this tells you the users and the group will have these files. Okay, so for the permissions, the first three after the first alphabet, it's for our user, which is this. Then the second is for the group, which is this, and the third is for everyone else who have access to the file. So what this means is this file, this directory country, anybody who has access to the file, they can read the file, but they cannot write into the directory. Okay, but they can execute the directory, can change directory, and whatever, but they cannot write the directory, like create a directory inside this directory. They cannot edit or modify the directory. That's just what write means. Now, when you do ls-l, this is a complete result of what you're going to have. The permission, the file type first, the first alphabet, which is your file type. Then you have your file permissions. You can see the user group, the first three. You can see the group permissions, which is the second three that we have in here. Then you can see the permission for everyone else, which is the last of the threes. All right, so when you look closely at this kind of information that we have here, you can see that we have another different alphabet apart from RWX that I'm working with for a while now. You can see somewhere here that says S. So what S here means, or S here means, is telling you, I can see that it is replacing the X permission. So the S here is telling you that this is a sticky bit. Okay, so the sticky bit means that this file will run as an executable file based on the permission of the owner of the file and not the user who wants to use the file. For example, this user have a R has a read, write, execute permission, right? But the S is telling you that it this for for the group permission, that to execute this file, it is only going to run based on the owner's permission. Okay, so the S for sticky bit, or set group ID, or set UID, which is set user ID, is just to have a much more to modify the standard behavior of how a file or a directory is executed. Okay, we'll see a practical example of what I'm trying to do or trying to say to you. So just concentrate on the fact that we have read WX, RWX, read, write, execute. All right. But if we want to manage how a person executes the file, we'll do a sticky bit or a set user ID or set group ID, which manages how the person actually executes the file. Because we don't want somebody running a particular script when at a particular time when we do not want them to run that script at a particular time. So we'll set an advanced permission. So that's what the S is for. I hope that's is a bit clear for us. Okay, so the next task that we're going to do is to create a file and change the file permission based on numeric mode. You can see this numeric mode here, these numbers that we have here. So we'll create a file and change the file permission based on the numeric mode. Don't forget, I said that R is for W is 2, and X is 1. So that is what we're going to use to calculate our file permissions. Okay, so I am back to my terminal. I have a file here called script.sh. I can see the permissions that it has. Okay, maybe we should just create a new file. So let me clear this. Make it bigger. So let's create a new file and say touch. First of all, who is the user who is running this command? So don't forget we are dealing with file permissions. Okay. So who is the user running this command? So who am I? The user is currently OS boxes. So what if I change user? Say switch user to Gabriel, or let's see the users that we have first. Okay, I can see a user called Fola here. I can see another user called Gabriel, and this is the user that we've been using all this while, OS boxes. So let's use the user called Gabriel. So all clear. I'll say switch user Gabriel. It is going to ask me for a password. I hope I know the password. Okay, I know the password. So let me confirm and say who am I. So the user is Gabriel. All right, so let's create a file. First of all, let's check the file that I have here. I can see all of the file, same file that we saw earlier. So let me clear this and do ls-l to see the file permissions. Same files that we have earlier for OS boxes, but now Gabriel is accessing the file. You can see that Gabriel does not have any file here. All right, but because and it's not in any group, so it's going to have a permission that has read, write, execute permission for script.sh, which means I cannot edit this file. So I will clear this and create a new file and say DevOps file or DevOps permission.txt. Okay, permission denied. Let's do ls-l. Let's see. Okay, I think I didn't have permission to do that. So let me clear this. Okay, I know what's happening. I have not added this user to let me try sudo. Let me see gonna work. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So this user is not in the sudoers file, so I would not be able to edit. This is what I mean by permissions, right? So I'm not able to um, let me do print working directory. So I'm not able to write on this directory. Okay, I'm not able because this directory is not mine. All right, do not forget we switch from the user called OS boxes, and we are currently accessing that user's directory. Okay, and we do not have the permission to actually edit the file. We do not have write permission. And also, what can happen is to add this user or Gabriel to the sudoers file, which means to the admin file. Do not forget that sudo is a privileged user. Okay, it's more like overwriting something, an advanced permission to to break protocol. Okay, so we would go back to our OS boxes and put in the password. Okay, so I will clear this. I will list the files again. You can see they're still there. I will clear them. And this time around, I'm going to create a new file and say DevOps permissions .txt. So when that is created, I will list the file, and I can see the file here. Okay, so let's see the file permission. So the file currently the file currently has a read write permission for the user, a read write permission for the group that the user currently is, and every other person who is accessing this file or this directory can only read the file. So this is exactly what happened when I switched to OU Gabriel user and I tried to um, create or edit the directory. You can see that I do not have the right to edit it. So this is a typical example of what happens when you uh, set up permissions, right? So if I log in again as OU Gabriel and I try to access this file and try to edit it, which means to write on it, I won't be able to. I'm still going to receive the same error because I am not in the group and I'm just another person who is trying to access the file, and I only have a read write permission. Okay, so how do we change the permission of a file? So like I said, we are going to be using the numeric type, the numeric. So we are going to give the file a full permission for everyone, which is read, write, and execute. Okay, so we're going to give it this full permission for everyone, and then we'll see how that happens. So we're going to give the file a read write permission just to see how that works. All right, so I am back in my terminal, and how do you change it? We use a simple command called um, chmod. So chmod to to have my read write permission for the file. Do not forget R equals 4, W equals 2, W equals 2, and execute, which is X equals 1. All right, so we are going to give it a read write permission, right? So we are 4 plus 2 plus 1 is 7. This is for our user. All right, so for the group, let's give it a read and execute permission. So which is read and execute, which is 5, and 4 plus 1, which is 5. And for others, let's give it a read and write permission. So this is just for testing purpose. So 4 plus 2 will give us 6. Okay, so now that we're done with that, I take this off. It's just for our understanding. So now I will then put the name of our file, which is DevOps permissions, right? .txt. Okay, so um, let me put a star on this. Okay, let me just copy. All right, so I'm trying to rerun the command so we can see the permissions again before we change the permission. This is the initial permission, r dash dash for everyone else, read write for group, and read write for the user. Okay, so now we are changing this to read write execute. Sorry, we're changing this to read write execute, which is the user. I'm changing this to okay, maybe to change this to read write execute also. All right, let us leave it the way it is because I think we gave it read execute, right? Which was 5, and this we gave it read and write, which was um, 6. I think so. But let us go back and see. So take a note of the permissions that we currently have on this file here. All right, so I'll do clear and all right, it has gone off. So I have to retype the command. Okay, so let's retype the command, call back the number. So read write execute. So let's give it here. Okay, so let me start all over again. So sh mode, change mode for r equals 4, right equals 2, x equals 1. All right, so let's give it read write for the user, read write execute for the user. Let's give read it has okay, let's give read execute for the group, and let's give read write execute for everyone else. This is just for testing purpose. All right, so then when we're done with that, we go back. So this is a different permission from what we did earlier, which is okay because we're just testing. All right, so there was permission. So most of the time when you're working within an organization, they will actually, most of the time they'll tell you the type of permissions to actually give a particular file, especially when the permission is sensitive. And most of the time also, as a DevOps engineer, you should know how best to secure your files, and especially when they're sensitive, even when you're not told, because it is the standard. You have to keep your file secured. Okay, so now we've changed our file permission. So when I do ls-l again, we can see that it has changed. You can see now that the user, I mean the others, which is everyone else, have a read write execute, and this has changed from read write to read execute. And you can see that the write is having a dash in the middle, which is 0. It's not there's no permission for write. And here you can see just the user has a read write execute permission, and the dash here tells you it's a file. So do not forget that this is the user, the first 3, this is the group, the second 3, and this is the permission for everyone else who is not a user and who is not a group. See this everyone else or others as somebody visiting your office for the first time, or a temporary worker like the plumber who's coming to your house to fix the pipes. They will come and go, right? They're not staying in your house as a permanent resident. So you cannot give them full permission and give them, oh, because you're here to fix my house, take my house key, come, you can come whenever you want, at night, in day, whatever. That's wrong. So you just give them an access, right? Which is read. But here we give them permission because we're just testing. Okay, so this is the end for file permissions. The next we are going to be talking about user permission. Okay, I think before we end this file permissions, let's see how it's important for us to know how to change the ownership of this file. Currently this file here that we just created was given to it was created by OS boxes, right? Because that's the user. But let's give the ownership of this file to somebody else. which is a different user that we saw earlier. So to do that, we use the chown, um, change ownership, and we can give um, the ownership. Let's put in Hoye Gabriel and DevOps file permissions.txt. Okay, so let's use sudo. Okay, I think that has worked. So to confirm, let's do ls-l. You can see that the user have now changed to Oyu Gabriel, the um, the owner, I mean, or the user who now has this file has now changed to Oyu Gabriel. Okay, so Oyu Gabriel now has a read write execute permission for this particular file. Okay, so what if we want to change our file to change? Let me do that. So, we want to change this same file. This is for group, right? Want to change the group? We can change the group, but now we are going to move forward to users and permissions, and we are going to see how to also change ownership, like we did, change the user and change group and do a whole bunch of other fun stuff. Okay, so we are done with working with file permissions. We would see how to, because now we've done file permissions. We've talked about all of these entire details, all of these entire details, and it is important for us to actually know this before we talk about users. So I went a bit further to give the file to a user, this OU Gabriel. So let's move fully um, to user permissions and management. All right. I hope we are ready for all the fun stuff we're gonna have today. Okay. So before we talk about user permission and management, we need to understand some definition of terms. Here we can see what users are. So users represent individual accounts on the system, and they have unique ID. Then your user accounts, we can create a user by doing user add or add user. We saw how to create. Did we create a user? Okay, we only changed the function of a file um, to a different user. So to create a user, we are using the user add command or the add user command. To change the user, we use user mode, and to remove the user, we use userdel, which is user delete. Okay, so a user can be assigned to one or more groups. We already know what groups are. Groups are a collection of users, and here effort has been made to categorize these users to different departments. You can see the super user, which is our sudo, right? As our admin. You can see James here as our marketing guy. You can see Destiny here as our sales person, and Caroline as our business manager. You can see her pretty looking hair. Right, so this is an example of shared directories or cabinets or folders. Okay, you can see share slash marketing slash share slash sales slash share slash business. So we are going to see how we can implement a few of these, just not to make the class too long. All right. So we would create a user, then create a group, then assign different files to the user and to the group, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so this is going to be a lot of fun. I would need your attention at this part of the class so you can have a good grasp of it. Okay, so um, before we create a user, let's see the users that we currently have. So to check for users who are currently on the system, we use cat etc password. You can see the users that we have here. Okay, so let us create a new user. To create a new user, we will use the user add command, or can use the add user command. So let's create the user called John. All right, so it's only root. So let's use sudo add user. I'm currently in OU Gabriel. Okay, um, so let me cancel this. Let me switch user to iOS boxes. Not password. Uh, okay, just run it again. Don't forget this is how you switch users. SU means switch user, and the name of the user you are trying to um, go into. There are different ways to do this, okay? But I just feel this is the simplest way for those of us who are just starting. You can do more researches on how these things are done. There are different ways to get things done when it comes to DevOps and technologies. So it's on you to go beyond the class and do a bit of research. Okay. So, but I feel this what we're learning here it's more than enough for us. Okay, just not forget I can say add user as a command, or I can say user add. It's still the same thing. Okay, user add John. And I click. Sorry, I have to use sudo user add John. So the reason why you have to put sudo is because etc slash password is a sensitive document. Is usually has the permission of the. Okay, let me clear this. And let me say ls/l. Okay, clear. So it usually has the permissions of a sudo user. So you cannot edit the etc password without a sudo privilege or permission. Okay, so sudo user add the name user. Okay, let's use somebody from our example that we saw earlier. Yeah, let's use James from marketing department. Okay, so sudo add James. We do not have anybody called James in the system. We've saw that earlier. So when I click enter, it's added. So the next thing I would have to do is to okay, let's do cat etc password to see if okay, you can see James is added, but James does not have any password. So let's add password to James. All right, so to add password, I say sudo password, password, click on enter, put in the password. Okay, it's telling me it's short. Okay, it does not match, so I have to retype. Okay, let me cancel. I think of a different. Um, okay, so let me say. Okay, new password. I'm struggling with actually having. Oh, come on. Okay, I have to think of something different to use here. Okay, I hope I remember this. I hope I remember the password I'm going to use. So I'm trying to use a simple password so I can be able to easily remember, but it's giving me lots of um, concerns now. So let me just collect this to have a fresh screen. So I'll call back the command, and this time around I would say 1, 2, 3. Okay. Oh, come on! I just want to use a password. So this is one of the importance of using um, Linux. It is very secure, so you can know when you're trying to be overly lenient. So okay, I have to go. I need something I can easily remember. Okay, passwords do not match. Another thing you can do is to just click enter into still go. Just that I just want to follow the rules of the system. So there are other ways I can use to override this, but it's important for us to um, be a bit. I'm not sure something is not. Okay, okay. I'm sorry. I know. Okay, so what is happening is I'm typing sudo password, but I'm not actually telling the system the user I'm trying to change the password to. So that is why it's giving me a whole lot of concerns because the system thinks I'm trying to change the sudo password. Okay, and that is not what I'm trying to do. So I would cancel this. I'll just click enter and then clear. Then bring back my command password, and the user we talked about was James. So sudo password James. Then I'll type in the new password now. All right. So okay, just to let me know it's short. So what's going on today? Okay, finally I've been able to update the password. Um, still, so this is just like a an what do you call it? An output that tells you that whatever you are inputting in your new password, it's not secure because it is guessable. Okay, but anyway, I just had to ignore it and just still typed it, and I had successful. So what I was trying to do earlier was to follow the right um, password settings, but I'm concerned about remembering the password, so I still just continued with the simple one, which is fine because this is just a test lab in it. So do not forget sudo password James. Do not make a mistake like I did by just saying sudo password. You would confuse the system. So this is our new user that we just created, and we are trying to change the password, which we've done already. So let me clear this, call back the command to view uh, our etc password. Okay, so James is there. So the next thing we can do is to see how we can delete a user. To delete a user, you can say del user, which means delete user. All right, so delete user James. Delete user. It says have to be sudo, so sudo delete user. You can see, let's confirm that it's been deleted. Cat it is a password. You can see James is gone. Let's also delete John. We don't want John and we don't want Fallout too. So let's clear. Call back the command, delete user, sudo delete user. Let's delete for John. Sorry, delete for John. Okay, and delete for the name Fallout. Okay, so let's clear. And let's also check. You can see they are all gone. Then they are no more in the system. Why do you delete a user? When a user resigns from your company, or they move to a different company, or they move to a different department and they are no longer in the department, and you do not want them to rack up all your user history or user list. So there's so many reasons why I can delete a user from a system. Okay, they could be moved to a different branch in the same company and all. So how do we add a user to an existing group? Before we can add a user to existing group, we need to first of all create a group, right? Okay, so before we can create add a user to a group, first of all, we need to we've deleted all of the users that we have. So let's create a different user. So I say sudo add user or user add. We used James the last time. Sudo add James. Okay, sorry, let me cancel this. Clear. So to first of all, I want to confirm if my James has already been created. So I'll say ID James. James is already created. So I will delete James from this. So user delete James sudo. Okay, so check again, ID James, no user called James. So using ID James is better than just going to my cat etc um, password. Like I said, there are so many ways to achieve the same goal. All right, so instead of me typing cat etc password, I'm now using ID and the username. All right, so you can see I'm trying to not use too many commands and also introduce a new command to you gradually as we progress. All right, so ID James. So to create, there's no James now. So user add sudo user add James. So James is added. You can see what happened when I. Okay, I'm not go there. So so to confirm, I say ID James. James is added. When you say user add, you have much more. Sorry, add user. When you type sudo add user James or sudo add user John, you have much more input to add when creating the user. But user add is a bit straightforward. So user add James. All right. So to give James a password, I'll say password sudo password. I'm repeating what we did the last time for clarity. Sudo password James, and I would type in my password. Okay, it's been updated now. All right, so let us add James to a group. Okay, let us add James to a group. Before we add James to a group, I feel it is important for us to know how to change a user's password. What if you want to change the user's password? How do you manage that? All right, first of all, let me view this. Okay, let me cut it first. Say cut etc slash login dot dev. Okay, so here I can see all of the password details for my system. Okay, this is the default for all users. You can see user groups, user delete. For if you want to, this is for if you want to change the default for the default settings for your password, like the number of max number of days that the person needs to change their password, the minimum number of days that is needed for the person to change the password, and all that. Okay, let's go in sudo vi. You can see I'm just scrolling down. You can see here if I want to change the 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 number of days that this password should be used, maximum number of days a password should be used. You can see here 99 is almost forever. I can change it to maybe 28 days or every 3 months by number of days. Okay, so if every 3 months, let's say we have 30 days in a month, so we can change this to 90 days. All right. So every 90 days, this password changes, or if it's every 2 months, every 60 days, this password it will request you for a new um, password. So what is the minimum number of days allowed between password changes? So when a password is created, how many days should it take before the user is allowed to change the password? So this is also password one age, number of days uh, warning given before a password expires, which means if we give 30 days here or 60 days here before the number of days it would take to remain before the system tells the user to wants the user to actually change the password. All right. This is for the user ID numbers when you say when you run the user add command, because every user has an ID. Remember when I ran ID James, it gave me James user that it tells me if James is added to the system or not, and it came with an ID for James. So I will just quit this. We'll see a bit more of that later. So if I do not want to change my password by logging in into here, I prefer to do it on the command line. So I can say sudo change password, that is change age of the password. Okay, I can say number of days 19, 90. Okay, we change, before we edit the number of days that it will require for the user to change the password, I feel it is first of all important for us to know how we can check the age of the password. So say change age, list James. So here you can see different output here. It tells us Say password expires, never. We saw that in this when it showed 99999, but this is, you can see it here also, 99999. Maximum number of days between password change. So last password change, which was today, the password expires, never. Password inactive, never. So we would see, we would change some details here. First of all, we change the maximum days and the minimum days and all that, and the number of warning, the days before the system wants the user to change the password. So to do that, we would now say sudo change age. So when we run sudo change age, maximum number of days, we use capital M for that. So we'll say 90, which is about 3 months, and the minimum number of days, we'll leave it at 0, and then the warning period, we'll leave it as for 7. So let's say 10 days, and the username, James. So that is done. All right, so let's list it again. Let's run this command again to confirm the details that we've added. Okay, you can see now that it just added. So after 90 days, the system is going to tell the user to change the password, and the next password expiring date is October 2nd, 2025. So this is how you tell a user to change the password at a particular date and time. Okay, so that is that about that. There are other more details that we can also talk about. Like I said earlier, if you want to change the password for James, it's the same password we used, the same command we used when we first of all created the password. Say sudo password James, and you run it, you can change it, but we're not changing the password at the moment. So I'll say clear. All right, so now that we've learned how to add users to, change user password, and force the user to change the password at a particular given date, we then need to we then need to create a group and add the user to the group. Okay, so how do we do that? So create a group, we say sudo group. Last time we said add user, right? Or user add. Say group add. Let's use the word marketing for James. Why are we using marketing? Because we said we want to implement what we have here. James is in marketing. So group add marketing. Click on enter. So the if I say ID um, marketing, it says no such user. Okay, I used ID, which is for users. So to get it, I'll say get entry group marketing. Okay, so I can see that my marketing is created. Another way to check if a group is created, I can use the grep command. Do you remember the grep command? Grep is the search between your systems. So I say marketing and check within the etc group file. Okay, you can see just giving me an output here, same output as I had here. Do not forget, when we checked for the user, we used cat etc password, right? But for group, we say etc group. Let me see if I can use the cat command to check for, sorry, to check for just like the way we did for our user cat etc group. All right, so these are all the groups that we have. So you can also use the group, the cat command to check. Okay, you can see here to give you all the list of the groups within the system. So I'll clear this. All right, so now that we've created a user and we've given the password, and then we have created a group. So let's add the user James to the department marketing. So to do that, we say sudo usermod dash a slash ag marketing, the name of our user, James. All right, so James has been added to the marketing department. All right, so let's create a file. Touch. Let's say marketing. Let's say um, sales. No, let's not use sales. Let's use products.txt. All right, so let's do ls-l. Okay, so products.txt, this was created by OS boxes, so we'll change the ownership to change the ownership of this file, just like we did for this. So change the ownership of this and give it to James. So to do that, I would say sudo, let me clear this, sudo change ownership. Okay, so change as sudo switch on James, the user, and the group is marketing. So we're changing it to, last time we only changed the file um, user, but now we're changing both the user and the group. And then our file name, products. I hope I get the name of the file correct. Products, is it product or products? .txt. All right, so let's confirm. You can see here the user and the group has changed to James and marketing, right? And these are the permissions. And we say we can also change the permissions um, of our file. So let's change the permissions just to for clarity. We've done that earlier, but let's just change it again. So first of all, let's do ls-l. So it has read write, and read permissions. So we'll change this to full permissions for the user and for the user. So the user does not have execute, so we'll add execute. The group does not have execute, so we will also add execute. So to be rwx for James and for the marketing department. Okay. Don't forget we've added James now to the marketing department. So let's clear this and change the permission for group for the user and the group. So I'll say sudo change ownership. Sorry, um, permission now. I change the permissions. I change the permissions. So just to clarify what. Okay, so to change permission, we will not use change ownership. We'll say change mode to for group. We say read write execute 4 plus 2 plus 1, which is 7. For group 4 plus 2 plus 1, which is 7. Then for every other user, we'll give it only read permission, which is 4. Okay, give it only read permission. Just to clarify what we did, this is it. Okay, so we gave use everyone else, which are others, just read permission, which is 4, like we did earlier. Okay, I hope that is understood. So we then put in the name, the product.txt. All right, so that has changed. Let's confirm. This is our file, product.txt. You can see it has changed now. Um, James has read write execute, which is a user. Then the group marketing has a read write execute, and everyone else has only read permission. Okay, so we've achieved our purpose for this. If you remember the last time I said we have symbolic mode and then numeric mode, and when we did our change our ch mode, we only used numeric using numbers 770 or 774 when we changed our file permission. We can also use symbolic mode if you do not know if you are, the numbers are confusing you. You can use symbolic mode. How do you use symbolic mode? Just the same way we did the numeric mode. So let's do a bit of practice on how to use um, numeric, sorry, symbolic mode. So I will clear this. First of all, my products read write execute for user, read write execute for marketing, the group, and the read only um, for others. Okay, so let's say sudo change mode. Now we are just giving an example of how to use this symbolic one. So I'll say for user, I would give it the okay. So for all, should we use orders and should we use um okay? Let me say user. Okay, so our file has read write execute, right? So what if I want to remove execute permission for our user and group in our products.txt? So x is execute, right? And x is 421, right? So x is 1. So I can take out the execute permission from it by using user group minus x. So remove x from it. So that is off. So let me check again. When I check my file, you can see it only has read write. There's no execute. For user, only has read write. So here we have our others with only read permissions, right? So let's give it a write permission. So let's clear write permission for others. So the U is for user, group is for, G is for group. So I'll take this off for others. Oh, and I want to give it the plus for to add execute permission to the orders. Now, currently, this file only has read permissions for the for others for everyone else, but I want to give it an executable permission and also give it a write permission. So our only others will have read, write, execute because it already has read, right? So I'm giving it two extra permissions, W and X, which is write and executable permissions. So when I click enter and do ls-l, you can see only others have read, write, execute permission. So I will take this off. I do not want that. To take it off, I will call it back and remove the permission and leave it only as WX. Okay. So this is how you give permission and take permission using the symbolic mode, read, write, execute mode. So what if I want to take off all permissions from the user and the group? Like take all permissions, so read, write, execute. I'm taking it off, minus. Okay, so minus means remove for user and for group. UG means user and group. So when I do ls-l, you can see there is no permission. It's empty for both James and marketing. There's no permission, which means they cannot even open the file, touch the file. They can't read it. They can't do anything on that file. Okay, so I'll just say clear. Now, why I'm doing this is you can use sudo change mode 777 numbers, or can use rwx. Okay, but to do that, you have to first of all call the user or the group you want to give the permission to. So, and a user, which is James, and I want to add it. So user plus this. All right, on product.txt. So I'm adding it now. So you just have to use the symbolic mode. So when I do ls-l, I can see that James now have read write permission. Okay, so let me give that back to also to the group, to group the ls-l. I can see that my group and my user, James and marketing, all have read write permission. Only the only others or everyone else has read permissions only. All right, so I'll clear this. So whichever way is better for you, you can either use the numeric, or you can either use the symbolic, which other way. But for the symbolic, you need to do a bit of plus, add plus to your command. But for numeric, you just need to add it, say 421, 421, 421 to know what permissions to give. So I'll most likely I prefer using the numeric. It's a bit more direct and more simple. But if you find this much understanding, then it is fine, as long as you get the job done. Okay, so let's switch to our user James. Sorry, switch user James. Okay, James does not have anything within his directory. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to exit and add James to the as a sudo user. Okay, so that James can be able to. Okay, now first of all, when I say switch user James, I log in and I say sudo apt install, let's say vim. I type in the command. You can see that I cannot do anything because James is not in the sudoers file. James does not have privileged information to either install or do anything. All right, so what if I do an ls and I want to go into this products.txt file? Okay, and I say cat products.txt, which we created. You can see it didn't even cut because James James is not in the studio file. You can see everything here is just white. Let's try to log in into the file itself. You can see we logged in because James has James can read it. You can write into the file. That's why it's opening. Let me exit. Okay, and you can execute this particular file. Right. So let's go into um, this directory. This is a directory desktop. So let me see if James can be able to move into that directory desktop. Normally, it shouldn't be able to. CD desktop. And see this. It's just giving it a bit of wrong outputs. And again, we are back to, even though we use cd desktop, it still didn't go in, and we're still within the same directory that we were earlier. So I'll exit and I'll add gems uh, to sudo as file. So I'll say sudo usermod ag um, ag gems. Okay, I think I'm not doing something right. Okay, I was going through. So a couple of things here to for you to go through options. Yeah. Okay. So I'll call back the command. First of all, let me clear this. Call back the command, and I'm changing the sudo command, the sudo file. So the username James. So that is a now. So let me say switch user now to James. Put in my password. Okay. ls. Okay. Before we do this, let me just say exit and show you something. So we added James to the sudoers file now, yeah, and I need to confirm if that is added. So to do that, I'll say sudo um, let me just say groups James, because sudo is a group in it. So you can see James I've added to a group called James sudo and marketing. So it is now in the sudoers file. Another way to also do this is to type sudo vsudo. Okay, this is going to open an editor. So I can see the editor. Click on I, say insert. When I scroll down, so you can see here, it's already changed to all. So allow members of group sudo to execute any command. It has been added. And so this is how to actually um, edit the sudo file. If you do not know how to run the if you do not want to use the command line, you can just do sudo vsudo. Okay, so you can either use this. Sorry, you can either use this to change to add a user to sudo, or you can use this to add a user to sudo. But then you would have to run a particular. You have to change that the sudo file to all. Yeah, you can see I didn't change it because I do not have to. I already have my sudo file changed with the command, so I do not have to change it when I did sudo vsudo. All right, so that is it for today. There is a task for everyone that I will need you to do. So it's here. So it's scenario based. It says you are a DevOps admin. Your task is to onboard a new developer called Alice. Assign her to the right group, which is dev team. Then set up permissions and security policies to ensure everything is correctly managed. All right. So for to do this, you can go to my GitHub repository and find this. You can practice this as your task for the week, and when you I've already given you the answers. So, but I'm not going to do that on going to do that in the course of this video. So please go. I would attach the link to this repository to the image. I mean to the to the video so you can have access to it. So run all of these commands, finish the task. When you finish the task, you then make a screenshot of them and send it across to me. So basically, this is your task for the week. I've already given you the answers and all of the output that you need. Should be easy. We didn't do set ACL, which is fine. It is already that's why I'm giving you as a task, and I already giving you the commands that you need to practice that. So please do that. So at the end of this, you should be able to create test user, add the test user to both groups, create a file, name them configuration.txt, make it readable um, only by owner, then give read access to QA group using the access control list, and then force password change. We did that in the course of this class, and all of that. So this is a very interesting aspect of the class. There's another task here in file permissions, but which is fine. Just do the one for user permission and management, because also I included files to read, so that's why I'm not giving us the task for file permissions, because when you do this, you as well understand the task which was given in file permissions. All right, so when you log into this repo, please go only to user permission management and do the task that you see here. Okay, this scenario, you are a dev admin. Okay, you have to onboard a new developer called Alice and assign her to the right group and give her the right permissions. All right, so that is it for the class today. I will see you in our next class. God bless you and live long and prosper.